The Church Growth and Giving Show, your resource for growing faithful communities. Brought to you by Vanco, helping tens of thousands of churches thrive for over 20 years. Join Jordan and Hannah as they share insights drawn from decades of church giving and engagement expertise.
Today, we've got something really exciting to dive into that I know is going to help a lot of our church leaders out there.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about fund accounting. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Ooh, accounting? Really? But trust me, this is actually super interesting and, well, pretty crucial for churches. So what exactly is fund accounting? Can you break it down for us?
Well, think of it like having different piggy banks for different purposes. Like, you wouldn't want to mix your grocery money with your vacation savings, right? Fund accounting works the same way for churches. It's basically a system that tracks money based on its intended purpose.
So if someone donates specifically for, say, a youth ministry program.
Yeah, that money gets tracked separately from general operating funds. It's really about ensuring that when people give money for a specific purpose, it actually goes to that purpose.
That makes sense. But I'm curious. How is this different from regular business accounting?
That's actually a great question. You see, in regular business accounting, money is pretty much, well, money. Companies can generally move it around however they need to, but churches and nonprofits need to be much more careful about this. When someone gives a restricted gift, that money has to be used exactly as intended.
I imagine there's a trust factor there, too.
Oh, you bet. It's interesting. Studies show that donors are 75% more likely to give when they can see exactly how their money is being used. It's all about transparency and building trust with your congregation.
So what are the main types of funds churches typically work with?
Well, there are really three main categories. First, you've got your operating fund. That's your day-to-day stuff like paying the bills, salaries, keeping the lights on. Then there's the restricted fund, which is money designated for specific projects or programs. And finally, you have endowed funds, which are kind of like savings accounts that need to be preserved long term.
I've heard some scary statistics about church finances. Isn't there something about fraud?
Yeah, unfortunately, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners found that religious and charitable organizations lose a median of $85,000 due to fraud. But here's the thing. Proper fund accounting can actually help prevent that.
Really? How so?
Well, it creates this system of checks and balances. When you're tracking everything separately and have clear documentation, it's much harder for anything questionable to slip through the cracks. Plus, it helps churches stay compliant with all those legal requirements they need to follow.
You know what would be helpful? If you could walk us through what this actually looks like in practice.
Right, so let's break this down into something practical. Imagine your church is planning a building renovation project. You'd want to set up a specific building fund that's completely separate from your general operating expenses.
So if someone writes a check specifically for that renovation,
It goes straight into that building fund account. And here's what's really cool. With modern fund accounting software, you can actually track every dollar from the moment it comes in to when it's spent on, say, those new windows or that updated HVAC system.
speaking of software, I know a lot of our listeners are probably wondering about that. What options are out there?
I just saw a report that showed the fund accounting software market is growing at about 6% annually through 2032. There are a handful we really love too. You've got ACS Technologies, Power Church, and Church Windows, just to name a few.
I'm curious about something. How do churches actually keep all this organized on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the key is having a really solid chart of accounts. Think of it like creating a filing system for your money. Every transaction gets assigned a specific number code.
That sounds complicated.
It can seem that way at first, but it's actually really helpful once you get it set up. And here's something interesting. Churches that use proper fund accounting often find it easier to get grants and larger donations because they can show exactly how they manage their money.
You mentioned internal controls earlier. What exactly does that mean for churches?
Think of internal controls, like having multiple locks on your door. You want different people handling different aspects of the finances. So maybe one person records the donations, another person deposits them, and a third person reconciles the accounts.
I see. So it's not just about tracking the money, it's about protecting it too.
You've got it. And you know what's really important? Regular reconciliation. That means checking your internal records against your bank statements at least monthly. It's like doing a regular health checkup for your finances.
That makes me think about transparency. How do churches typically share this financial information with their congregation?
That's actually a crucial point. Most churches prepare regular financial statements, could be monthly or quarterly, showing how funds are being used. And get this, studies show that donors are way more likely to give again when they can see concrete information about what their gifts are accomplishing.
So it's really about building trust.
Um, yeah, and you know what's fascinating? When churches maintain this level of transparency, it actually tends to increase giving over time. It's as if, well, people feel more confident that their donations are making a real difference.
I can see that. But what about when churches run into challenges with all this? Like, what are some common pitfalls?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the biggest issues I see is um, churches trying to manage everything in a basic spreadsheet. While that might work when you're very small, it can quickly become overwhelming.
And I imagine there's more room for error that way.
You're right. And another common challenge is not separating restricted and unrestricted funds properly. It can be tempting to borrow from one fund to cover expenses in another, but that's actually a really dangerous practice.
What about training? I mean, not every church has a certified accountant on staff.
Well, there are actually tons of great training options out there: online courses, webinars, workshops. And here's something interesting: some churches are forming networks to share best practices and learn from each other.
That's really smart. It's like creating a community around financial stewardship.
Yep, and speaking of stewardship, there's a really important spiritual aspect to all this. When we manage church finances well, we're not just being good accountants. We're being faithful stewards of what God has entrusted to us.
That's such a good point. Any final advice for churches that want to improve their fund accounting?
Yes. First, don't try to do everything at once. Start with the basics. Get a good software system in place, set up proper fund categories, and establish basic internal controls. Then you can build from there.
And what about churches that might be struggling with this right now?
The good news is, it's never too late to start doing things right. I always recommend starting with an audit or review of current practices. Then, develop a plan to implement better systems gradually. And don't be afraid to ask for help. There are professionals who specialize in church accounting.
This has been so helpful, Jordan. I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. For those who want to learn more, where should they start?
We've actually put together a great resource on our website with our complete church fund accounting guide. It provides valuable links and resources. It also goes into more detail than our conversation. You can find the link for it in the show notes.
Perfect. And remember, everyone, good financial management isn't just about following rules. It's about creating a foundation for sustainable ministry. When we handle our finances well, we can focus more on what really matters: serving our communities and sharing God's love.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Hannah. Thanks everyone for joining us today.
We'll see you next time on the Church Growth and Giving Show. In the meantime, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest tips, resources, and more.